What do you think America learned about all these events? And what does it mean about Israel?
Well, unfortunately, the first thing that I would say is that we should eliminate one word from our vocabulary, the word terror. Terror is not the enemy. Terror is simply a method of intimidating, destroying, and dominating us. The question is who's doing it, not what they're doing. We know they're doing it. And the problem is that the Western governments, are refusing to identify who the enemy is. The enemy is a group of Islamic people, not necessarily extremists, religious Islamists who believe, as the Quran says, that Islam should dominate the world, and they are doing it. What's so difficult to understand? They're doing what the Quran tells them to do. So until our Western leaders are going to begin to recognize that that's a threat, and either fight it in some political, cultural way, or we are never going to resolve the problem. The Cameron, the day after this savage killed this innocent soldier and had blood in his hand and was screaming Allahu Akbar and said, we are going to fight with you, and he refused to identify the enemy. He didn't even mention the word Islam. And of course then came all the Islamic leaders to say this has nothing to do with Islam. Nothing to do with Islam. The mosques that preach that we have to kill the infidels, the mosques that say that we have to dominate the world, these mosques are not telling these people to go around killing us. How can you say there's nothing to do with Islam? And our leaders are refusing to admit that. So it has to do a lot with Israel, because in the middle of this tremendous upheaval of the Arab world that we call the Arab Spring, the Secretary of State Kerry goes to Israel and wants to push the negotiations of the Israeli and Palestinians. What does it have to do with the main problem of the world is in Benghazi, in Iran, in Syria, in Africa, in Mali. These are the big problems, not the problems that he should spend time. And that, I think, is there is a kind of myopia. People do not see correctly, and they think all the problems begin and end with Israel. And I think that it's easier to move Netanyahu to meet with Abbas than it is to deal with the mosques and the clerics of Islam, who are really the enemy that is destroying and creating these bombers.